This is the Retirement Key Podcast with Abe Abich, founder of Abich Financial Services.
And I'm Heather Branch here with Abe to talk about the things you can do now to help prepare for your financial future. RetirementKeyRadio.com, that's where you can go to begin your own conversation with Abe and his team. Again, that's RetirementKeyRadio.com. In the world we are living in, Abe, it is good to know that we can get this kind of information whenever we want because there's so many of us seeking advice on so many things. We were just talking before we came on the air today about how you were saying for the July 4th holiday, you're like, we're going to be open on July 3rd. July 4th is a Tuesday.
That's right.
We're going to be working that Monday. We got stuff to do.
That's right. Hey, it's a busy time.
I know.
Busy time with the markets being the way they are.
Well, okay, so let's jump right into that conversation then because something that you and I have been talking about a lot here on the radio is the idea, this, when is the other shoe going to drop? What's going on with the recession? We've been talking about it forever, it feels like, because basically that's been the conversation since the pandemic broke out back in 2020.
Sure.
So Vera Gibbons with Yahoo Finance was saying that the warning signs have been confusing. Here's what she said.
The one thing that does look certain, at the moment anyway, is that the job market is in fact strong, the labor market's strong. So there's no sign of any kind of recession activity there. In fact, if you look at the job market, it is booming. And when you have a booming job market, you have consumers who are pretty happy. They're out there spending. You have some who have cut back on, discretionary costs a little bit. But if you look at service spending, restaurants, hotels, all the travel that's going on, people are really dead set on actually spending and having fun. So that's kind of keeping us afloat.
So, all right, she made very good points there, I feel. But thinking about the conversations you're having in the offices at Abich Financial, what are you telling clients about all this talk about recession? Is it overblown when it comes to planning for our retirement? What's the conversation?
Yeah, I don't think it's overblown considering coming off 15 to 20% losses for most people in most of the markets in 2022, Heather. We're coming off of big losses, and then the markets start the year up in 2023 on the hope that, inflation is going to start cooling down, and it is cooling down, and, maybe we're done with the worst of it. And also, I think the markets are pricing in and hopeful that the Federal Reserve is again going to kick this can down the road and again going to start to do the opposite of what they just did this last year and a half. They just raised rates 10 times, right? The reason why the markets were on a tear for 14 years from 2008 to 2022 is because interest rates were at all-time lows. There was a ton of cash into the system. And then in 2022 and to start off 2023, the Federal Reserve said, you know what? Inflation is out of control. It's not transitory. It's at 40-year highs. We got to do the opposite. 10-time rate increase, and pulling $100 billion of liquidity out of the system is going to make for markets that go down and that are volatile and turbulent. And so I think the markets are hopeful and predicting that the Federal Reserve, probably towards the end of 2023, maybe into 2024, will do again the opposite. Lower rates, cut rates, and maybe start QE again. If that's the case, and look out, the markets are going to love it. So this is a conversation we've been having with our clients, Heather. Yeah. But in the meantime, right, between now and then, we've got to be cautious, right? And so we want to participate in growth, but we also want to be mindful that at any time the shoe could drop. I mean, we're now back darn close to where the S&P was at a high. The S&P's up 12%, I think, year to date currently. And one thing also, Heather, that we're telling you, and for all of you listening right now, pay attention to this. Of most of the 12% of the return in the S&P 500 year to date, only 8 companies are responsible for nearly 100% of that return. Nearly 100% of that return, meaning the other 492 companies are only responsible for like 0.2% of the 12% of return in the S&P 500.
Golly, that's
Amazon,
weighted though, isn't it? I mean,
yes,
that's
seriously
crazy.
weighted in the FANG stocks. Amazon, Apple, Google, Microsoft, Tesla, Nvidia, and a few others are responsible for nearly 100% of the return this year. So it's not that all of the markets are up. It's that these tech stocks again are back. And so it's a little concerning for some people. It's a little scary. And we want to have a plan, especially if you're in the retirement red zone. And so we just had a lady come into the office. She found us on one of our TV shows, actually, on ABC. And she was watching the TV show and she said, now's the time for me. I'm 61. She's 61. She's retiring in 4 years at 65. She lives in Arlington, Virginia with $1.2 million saved. Middle of the road investor, 5 on our risk scale. But as we did her portfolio x-ray and we found out exactly what she has, we found out that she had about 70 to 80% in stocks, knew she needed to come down to a 5. She had no plan to help herself transition into full retirement, and she knew she needed to do something. So she had put it off and kind of knew she needed to get in and create a plan with 4 years left until full retirement. That's that retirement red zone I just mentioned. If you're 5 years or less away from full retirement, or in your first 5 years of full retirement, you're in a really, really important period of time where you want to save as much as you possibly can before you fully retire and protect everything you just worked so hard to build at the same time, and then create a plan to take Social Security at the right time, to reduce risk, taxes, generate income, and all of these things. So she had no idea what to do or how to transition, but she knew she needed the help, so she came in. And we offered her a comprehensive where do I stand plan to include an income plan, a plan for her investments, Roth conversions, Social Security guidance, replacing her working paycheck, protection of her life savings as well. Not all of it, right? You don't want all your eggs in one basket, but to start thinking about protection and defensive strategies while we focus on growth at the same time. You got to have both if you are nearing or already in retirement. So if you're listening right now and you sound like this lady in Arlington and you've got these same concerns, you know you need to set up a plan, go to retirementkeyradio.com, click on the Contact Us tab at the top of the page, and we can begin to have these same conversations and meetings with you as well.
Abe, thinking about all of the questions that so many of us have, turns out there are maybe some thought processes we're not having, some questions perhaps we're not asking, or at least not asking the right questions. This recent survey was talking to people who are already in retirement, as well as people who are getting ready for retirement, and they found some really big differences in our thought processes. So let's first off point out what are some of the major differences that the poll found.
Well, here's a good example. Here are several good examples, Heather. One, those getting ready for retirement thought that Social Security would make up 35% of their income. Those already in retirement found out it was more like 60% of their...
Social Security was actually making up their income.
Correct. With the other 40% coming from their portfolios. 20% of people thought that part-time work would contribute to their bottom line, but once they retired, they found out it was more like 3%. Okay. People thought they would retire at 65, yet the average for retirement was 62. And then 43% of pre-retirees thought that they had enough saved for a comfortable retirement, but 77% of those in retirement thought they were doing just fine. In other words...
That's a good statistic. If only 43% thought that they had enough, but then turns out when you're in retirement, 77% said they were doing fine.
We're just fine. So half the battle, we were talking about this before we hopped on the air today.
Yeah.
Half the battle is just saying, you know what? This is now so important to me, I can't push it off any further. And so a lot of our clients will come on board, just 6 months before they fully retire, or a year or two. I would say if you are 5, 6, 7 years or less away from full retirement, now is the time. Don't wait any further. Get all your statements together, all of your documents and information together so we can analyze all of it so you can make good, sound, informed decisions about your financial future. Now's the time if you've got a few years or less away from full retirement, or you're already there. Getting a second opinion. That's what this is about. Getting a complimentary second opinion. And you may be a successful do-it-yourself investor, as this couple was that we just met with in Sterling. They're in their mid-60s, and they've got 1 year left to fully retire. And this couple is one of those couples that's got everything on spreadsheets. Like, everything is documented and
These are my people.
Down on paper. And you know what? It's easy to work with a client like that because they know where every dollar is. They know what every expense is. They know where all their investments are. They're super on top of things. They've usually done a good enough job to retire, but they're also smart enough to know they need to get out of their own way. They're smart enough to know to check their ego at the door and realize, well, I don't know everything about retirement planning because this is not what I do on a day-to-day basis. I'm an engineer, or I am an attorney, or a doctor, or an analyst, or an accountant, and I don't work on retirement planning every day like we do. They're smart enough to know that I just want to turn this over, or make sure, what I'm thinking is correct, right? And get that plan. And so this couple's done a great job. They're in sterling and they've got 1.5 million saved. They're in their mid 60s, retiring in a year, done everything on their own, and came in with tons of questions. When should we take Social Security? How can we get out of this massive home we're in and start downsizing? And what's good timing for that? Options on outside of their TSP. There's government employees and they've got the TSP and got a lot of money in the TSP, and wanted to know, if I move money out of the TSP, why would I do that? And what should I put money into? And there's a whole nother world of investment options outside of the government's 401k, that TSP. They wanted to know more about Roth conversions and reducing taxes on all their investments. They had a pension decision to make. And finally, they wanted a life insurance analysis because a gentleman had FEGLI, the Federal Employee Group Life Insurance, with some other life insurance. And they were wondering, do we need, $1 million to $2 million of life insurance heading into retirement?
Right.
If our debts are paid down and the kids are out of the home and we also have a few million accumulated. So it's perfect time to really have a new plan for this next season of their lives. And so the solution for them was to meet with a phase 2 fiduciary retirement planning firm that happened to be us because we're right down the street, to get a second opinion, a complimentary second opinion, to get everything checked out, everything looked at under the hood and analyzed. So if this sounds like you and you have similar concerns, and you sound like this couple that we just talked about in Sterling, and maybe you're in your early to mid 60s, $1 million to $2 million saved, but just need questions answered, need guidance on all these decisions that you need to make that you didn't have to make 10 to 20 years ago. Go to our website, retirementkeyradio.com. Click on the Contact Us tab at the top of the page, and we can begin to have these same conversations with you as well.
Thanks for listening to the Retirement Key Podcast with Abe Abich. To learn more about Abich Financial Services, visit retirementkeyradio.com. And join Abe for his radio show, The Retirement Key, Saturdays at 8 a.m. and 2 p.m. and Sundays at 2 p.m. on WMAL.
Investment advisory services offered through Abich Financial Wealth Management, LLC, number 310633, a registered investment advisor firm. Financial professionals are not licensed in all 50 states. To find out if Abraham Abich is licensed in your state, please call 571-577-9968. Abich Financial Services is not affiliated with nor endorsed by the Social Security Administration or any other government agency and does not provide legal or tax advice. Annuity guarantees rely solely on the financial strength and claims paying ability of the issuing insurance company. By contacting us, you may be provided with information about insurance and annuity products offered through Abich Financial Services, Inc., Virginia Insurance License number 127820.